Hello everyone, back tuning into the 5th Summer 2019 Analogues update from Gasovis.com. So done 4 updates for the summer so far, or 4 Analogues updates for the summer so far, and 1 seasonal model roundup. We are getting well on with the summer updates now, and we're going to follow on really from what we were looking at last week. So last week for the 4th update, we looked at the March central temperature, March CT data. This week we're going to look at March precipitation data, and we're going to compare that to past years, had a similar sort of precipitation for England and Wales, and then we will have a look at some of the summers that followed those Marches. Just to say that coming up later on today, we're going to have the Gasovis Sunny Roundup, and then this evening we're going to get to the Easter updates going. So that's going to be quite an interesting watch. Easter 2019 updates begin at Gasovis.com this evening. Between now and then, we've got Gasovis Sunny Roundup. This is going to be quite a long video, so if you can't watch it all in one go, don't worry, it will be placed on the summer updates and forecast page with an extensive written summary, just going over everything that we discuss in the video. So you can come back and watch the video on demand and have a read of that written post, and that's going to be put up on the summer 2019 updates page sometime this evening. Big thank you to James Ackrill for getting these analogues together for us, our analogues guru, as always, coming through for us. A big thank you to James for doing that. And just to say, hope you enjoyed the video. So sit back, get a cup of tea, cup of chair, some biscuits, and we'll have a look at some of this data. So, as I say, we're going to be talking about March precipitation for this particular update. So this is the UK-wide percentage for the March rainfall. So this is anomalies to average. So it's quite a wet March across the northern and western parts of the country, many southern and eastern parts of Britain coming out closer to average. The actual March 2019 England and Wales precipitation came out at 103 millimeters. So our range of data we're going to be looking at for England and Wales precipitation is going to be 93 to 114 millimeters, which puts this particular March squarely and firmly in the middle of that range of data. So the first year that we're going to be looking at is going to be the year of 1862. And so this is how the summer of 1862 shapes up. So very unsettled summer with 1862. Remember, our range is 93 to 114 millimeters, placing March 2019 at 103 millimeters square in the middle of that range. So very, very unsettled summer here in 1862. Deep area of below average heights sitting over and to the east of the country, very big trough indeed. That's pulling down cool northwest winds. So that's a really cool, wet and miserable summer in 1862. Our next summer within this range for England and Wales precipitation of 93 to 114 millimeters is the summer of 1876, and this one is completely different. This one has a big area of above average heights centred over top of the UK and Western Europe. Below average heights are up to our north, and which actually will be pushed northwards as well. So that's quite a nice summer in 1876. There will be plenty of dry and quite warm weather associated with that. The next summer is 1888, following March precipitation between 93 and 114 millimeters. And this one is a very poor summer. It has a strong blocking signal up to our north with below average heights down to the south. So it's a cool summer. The jet stream is going to be down there. Cool summer and wet summer in 1888. 1896 comes up next. Again, this one looks like a pretty poor summer as well, really, with below average heights over to the south of the country. Bit of a blocking signal up to the north. The jet stream within the trough in the 500 millibar flow is going to be going something like that. So it does look pretty poor, actually, that summer as well. Then we go through to the summer of 1897, and this one has below average heights to our east, above average to our west, I should say, above average heights to our east and south. The jet stream is going to be down there. So this also looks like quite an unsettled summer in 1897, but also probably quite a warm summer, probably bringing up more of a southerly influence. That's probably quite a warm, maybe even fairly thundery and pretty unsettled summer in 1897. 1903 comes up next. This is how the summer of 1903 is looking. Very, very poor summer indeed, following March with England and Wales precipitation of 93 to 114 millimetres. Jet stream is going down to our south, so a cool and wet summer. Very poor summer in 1903. 1913 is our next summer, with above average heights out to the north and to the west of the country, below average heights to the southeast. That looks like a rather drier, potentially quite rather warmer summer. I wouldn't necessarily say it's overly hot summer. The high pressure is kind of like centred to the northwest of us, so it's not a classic summer by any means, but it probably is a better summer than the few that have preceded it. Then we're up to 1916. This very, very poor summer indeed. Below average heights, deep trough centred over the UK and much of Western Europe too. We've got above average heights with a blocking signal up to the north. So that one is a very poor summer as well in 1916. Long gap then. Have a very long gap from 1916 to 1963. So again, we're looking at March with England and Wales precipitation of 93 to 114 millimetres, placing March 2019 with 103 millimetres, slap bang in the middle. And there was a long gap with March precipitation within that range, right away from 1916 to 1963. The summer of 1963 is looking very, very unsettled indeed, with below average heights centred over the UK and much of Western Europe, so it looks like a pretty cool and pretty unsettled summer, to say the least. 1964 next, this one with below average heights to the north, above average heights in the middle of the Atlantic. Rather cool and, again, fairly changeable summer, really, in 1964. I have to say, so far, these analogues don't look terribly inspiring for a decent summer. Another pretty long gap then to 1980. So this is the summer of 1980. Again, it's an unsettled summer. Very strong signal so far in this analogues package, with below average heights again over and to the east of the country. Bit of a blocking signal is up to the north. The jet stream is going to be pushed down there. So this is a cool and unsettled summer in 1980. I think August 1980 was particularly grim. 1982 coming up next. So this is rather an unsettled but warmer summer. It has below average heights out to west-southwest, has some above average heights, albeit quite weakly, to our northeast. The flow is going something like that. So the air is actually quite warm with this summer. It's quite a warm summer, but it is also an unsettled summer. June 1982 was particularly dismal. 1987 next, so quite a few of these summers appearing within the 1980s, you'll notice. The summer of 1987 again is quite a cool and unsettled summer, has above average heights out to the west of the country, below average heights to our east. And so this one, it's not overly wet actually, it's not a particularly wet summer, but it is quite unsettled at times, and it's a pretty cool summer as well in 1987. 1988 is one of the worst summers of the 1980s, and it's not a particularly inspired decade for summers anyway, but this is one of the worst. It has a deep trough of below average heights over and to the west of the country. Again, we're bringing in those westerly winds. So this is a really cool and unsettled summer in 1988. Very, very bad summer indeed. Then we go through to 1989. This one's shown up in our analogues packages quite a few times so far this year. So again, we're looking at March, England and Wales precipitation of 93 to 114 millimetres, because March 2019 comes out around 103 millimetres for England and Wales precipitation. So these summers, or these Marches that we're looking at, are well within the range of 2019. And this is how the summer of 1989 is looking. Again, it's an unsettled summer to the north. It's got the below average heights across Greenland and Iceland. But for us, we actually have this area of above average heights over the UK. The jet streams push northward. So this is a drier and warmer summer. Finally, we've come to a good summer. And the summer of 1989 is a really nice summer, actually. It has a hot July. August is very warm. In fact, it's just a really good extended summer, really from May right the way through to September. It was a very, very good summer indeed in 1989. 1994 coming up next. Again, this one's showing up in our analogues packages quite a lot this year. This one has above average heights up to the north and west, below average heights I should say to the northwest, above average heights down to our south and southwest. And with this one, we're bringing up those southerly to southwesterly winds. So it's a very warm summer. It has a hot July, but also very unstable summer with regular thunderstorms. By August, it does deteriorate a little bit, but overall that's a good summer as well in 1994, albeit quite stormy. 2001 next, so this one with below average heights up to the north and bringing in those westerlies across the country. So this one again is quite an unsettled summer actually, and it's a fairly humid summer though in 2001. There are few hot spells, overall quite an unsettled and pretty humid summer. And then we've got 2008, and this is how the summer of 2008 is looking. Very unsettled summer indeed, with below average heights, a trough centred over top of the UK and a blocking signal up to the north that shoves the jet stream down to our south. So this is a really unsettled summer in 2008, regular bouts of rain. And although technically it's not a particularly cold summer, because it's often cloudy and wet overnight, so that holds the temperature up at night. Overall, it's a pretty cool, pretty grim summer in 2008. And then finally, we've got 2016 coming in within our March precipitation, England and Wales precipitation range of 93 to 114 millimetres. The summer of 2006 has 2016 I should say, has a rather bizarre pattern with below average heights to our south and also to the north as well. And with this one, we're kind of like bringing in a westerly flow. It's a very backloaded summer, so June 2016 is quite cool and quite unsettled, but then by the time you get through to August and September even of 2016, it turns much drier and much warmer as well. So that's a classic example of a backloaded summer, when you get most of the warmth, dry weather at the end of the summer rather than at the start. Now, putting it all together, this is how all of the Junes combine are coming out when we have March, England and Wales precipitation of 93 to 114 millimetres. So overall, it is an unsettled signal for June. We have below average heights centred over to the south of the country. Above average heights are up to the northeast. Bit of a southerly tracking jet stream. So overall, the Junes are coming out rather unsettled. The Julys also look rather unsettled as well, when we have March, England and Wales precipitation total of 93 to 114 millimetres. So we do tend to get a bit of a ridge out to the west of us, with low pressure to our south and also to our east. Rather an unsettled and relatively cool signal for July. But then look what happens in August. It gets far, far worse in August when we're talking about March precipitation of 93 to 114 millimetres. In the August, we stick this big trough of low pressure up over the UK and Western Europe, and look at the strong blocking signal that sets up towards Greenland as well. That's obviously sends the jet stream southwards, and pretty grim signal for the August. Very cool, very wet signal overall. And the summers combined as well. This over summer months and all these summers, putting them all together, it is an unsettled signal. We've got blocking signal up towards Greenland. We've got the below average heights over the UK. So it's just a pretty dismal sort of analogue really for summer. And that follows on from last week, where the March CET data was not particularly inspiring either. That's generally quite poor. So I think when we put the CET data for March with the precipitation data, we have to say that March really hasn't done us any favours in terms of getting a warm and dry summer. We are very heavily favouring cooler, wetter conditions for summer with the March data this year. And that's a little bit at odds with what happened last year, because I think last year we had that cold March. I think that kind of, funnily enough, tended to favour a warmer summer. But this year, the warm March, but also with precipitation, does appear that we're quite strongly favouring an unsettled summer with this March data. It's not over, so please don't despair if you're hoping for a warm, dry summer. This is just one aspect within the broader scene, if you like, for summer. The last thing I wanted to show you is this. So this is the March 2019 mean sea level pressure anomaly. So this is how the pattern actually looked for March 2019. So it has a strong area of low pressure. It has strong low pressure signals to the north. It has high pressure signals to the south and to the southwest. Obviously, it's a very westerly March. We're bringing in those westerly winds. It's very much a month of two halves. The first 2 weeks, very unsettled, dominated by wet and windy weather off the Atlantic. The second 2 weeks, much more anticyclonic, dominated by the Azores high. But overall, we do see that really strong westerly signal. Now, this chart just here is what our top two analogues for the winter forecast was forecasting for March. So our top, if we go all the way back to winter forecasts that were released in at the beginning of December, if we go back to that winter forecast, and I'm sure you remember quite clearly what happened with those winter 2018-19 forecast analogues, we had our top two analogues, analog years, which were 1914 and 1938, pointing us towards a mild winter. Although the overall analogues package, kind of like the top 5, top 7, top 10, overall analogues package for the winter forecast was shifting us towards a colder winter. But the top two, isolated out, two best analogues, were always pointing us to a mild an Atlantic-driven winter. And for March, this is how the top two analogues of 1914 and 1938 were looking. And you'll notice it was a strong westerly signal for March, right way back in December when we did winter forecast. With those top two analogues, see the above average pressure, the high pressure from the Azores into such as western and southwestern Europe, low pressure across the North Atlantic, westerly winds obviously coming through like that. And so it does seem, doesn't it, that the analogue for the winter forecast, which we did extend out to March, those top two analogues were strongly hinting at a westerly Atlantic-driven March, relatively mild but also relatively unsettled. And comparing the analogues from 1914 to 1938 for March to the March 2019 mean sea level pressure anomaly itself, you can see that well, it was pointing us very much in the right direction. You'll never get a like-for-like match, of course, but there are striking similarities there between the pattern that we had during March 2019 and what those top two analogue years were forecasting. So just for a bit of fun, we thought it would be interesting to just see what those two summers were like if we carry on with that scenario. So this is how June 1914 and 1938 combined looks. So for those two analogue years, June looks rather unsettled, with below average heights close to west of Europe, above average heights in the Atlantic, but we do have some ridging up to the northeast. However, overall, that is a relatively unsettled signal for June. But then for July, it's a much more unsettled signal. The trough deepens a lot during July. So July 1914, 1938 combined does look very, very unsettled for July. There is a blocking signal up to the northeast, and what that ridge over Scandinavia will probably do is that it will promote warmth pushing into that trough. So there would be the prospect of heavy rain with that from the energy provided by the warmth from southern Europe, and you wouldn't necessarily rule out quite a lot of thunder with that sort of situation as well. For August, the trough weakens quite considerably. So in August, you tend to get this area of above average heights with these two analogue years building to the north and east of the country as the low pressure sliding away to the south. Probably still quite unsettled, potentially quite thundery, and also potentially warm, or perhaps even very warm, possibly bringing in winds from an easterly, southeasterly direction. Would be unstable, but would be pretty warm and unstable, maybe quite volatile. Those two, excuse me, those two summers of 1914 and also 1938 are looking like this. It is an unsettled signal for those two summers, with a below average heights over the UK and much of Western Europe, although it has this signal for high pressure to be to our northeast. That high pressure is allowing warmth to be pushed into that trough. So unstable, potentially quite volatile, really quite a volatile summer pattern. Maybe, dare I say it, quite thundery, with those two analogue years of 1914 and also 1938. I think my voice is about to give out on me at that point, so I think I'll better really wrap things up. So that is it for your fifth summer 2019 update, Analogues update. I think we've pretty much exhausted all of the March data now. We've looked at the central temperature, and also we've looked at precipitation for March. We may do a little bit of March pattern matching in sometime in the coming updates. I'm not sure if we'll have time to fit that in or not, but there may be a little bit of March pattern matching coming up. But overall, I think March has been quite a disappointing month in terms of our summer prospects, but it is still early days. We've looked at things through the earlier updates, like the strengthening westerly QBO, for example. That is pointing us much more strongly towards a warmer or potentially even hotter summer. So it certainly isn't all over for the summer. We're certainly not saying that this summer will be a poor summer by any means. Please don't think that's what the forecast is. The forecast will not be released until the 26th of May. Got to do a lot more Analogues updates yet. Who knows what April data will unleash for the summer, for example. So there's a lot more still to come, a lot more still to play for. But certainly the March CT and precipitation data, not very good if you want a warm and dry summer. Okay, that's it for your fifth summer 2019 Analogues update. This video will be placed on the summer updates and forecast page later on today with a written summary going over everything that was discussed in the video. Galsworthy's Sunny Roundup will be released sometime around lunch, and then this evening we're going to have the beginning of the countdown to Easter. But that's all for now, and thanks for watching.